It wasn't until recent times that the Imperium came into contact with a strange new species of living organisms. A species that moves from planet to planet, stripping it of all life. A species which threatens to consume all biomatter in the known galaxy. A species called the Tyranids. Tyranids are a mysterious and savage alien race. Known as the Great Devourer, the Tyranids have begun to invade the galaxy from beyond the darkness of the void. Their hive fleets move like a slithering shadow, with tendrils branching off in every region of space. Driven by the imperatives of the hive mind, an interlinked and powerful psychic consciousness, their swarms sweep over countless worlds as a living tide of biological killing machines that seek to devour every last shred of biomass in their path. Though only identified by the Imperium relatively recently, the hive fleets of the Great Devourer have been recognised as one of the gravest threats to not only the Imperium, but to all life in the galaxy. The Tyranids travel from planet to planet in colossal organic constructs called hive ships, which move together as vast hive fleets. Consisting of millions of biomechanical craft, Tyranid hive fleets are host to a countless number of symbiotic organisms. Like locusts, the Tyranid hive fleet strip planets bare as they pass, turning once lush and green worlds into trails of barren husks. In the centuries that have come to pass, the Imperium has identified various different hive fleets, with each characterized by its own unique biological traits, many of which have manifested as rapid adaptations in response to the strategies of the enemies they encounter. The swarms continue to evolve at an alarming rate, with each battle resulting in an overall victory to the collective strength and capabilities of the hive fleet. The first known contact with a major Tyranid hive fleet by the Imperium of Man began a conflict known as the First Tyrannic War. The fleet was named High Fleet Behemoth, and was eventually destroyed as it reached the Macragge system in the 745th year of Millennium 41 by the combined might of the Ultramarines chapter of Space Marines and the Imperial Navy. High Fleet Kraken was the second major Tyranid hive fleet to invade the galaxy and marked the beginning of the Second Tyrannic War. The fleet was discovered about 250 years after the First Tyrannic War, and brought to light the horrifying fact that the Imperium had not eliminated the entirety of the Tyranid race. The Second Tyrannic War was brought to an end after the Eldari of Craftworld Eandon won a great and costly victory, successfully repelling the invasion from their homeworld, while the Ultramarines shattered the Hive Fleet in Imperial space at the Battle of Ikar IV. The remains of High Fleet Kraken are now little more than splintered fragments of its former might. However, many of these smaller splinter fleets still continue to threaten the Imperium to this day. High Fleet Leviathan was the third and largest Tyranid incursion into the galaxy. It marked the start of the Third Tyrannic War, and began in the closing years of the 41st millennium. Unlike the former hive fleets that entered the galaxy from the eastern fringe, Leviathan approached the galactic plane from below, attacking in a pincer formation that cut off large portions of the galaxy from warp travel and blocking communications. One of the main tendrils ventured on a projected course towards Terra itself, but was eventually halted at Tarsis Ultra. Due to the formation of the Great Rift, the tear in reality that divided the Imperium in half, a large portion of Leviathan was diverted as it made its main assault on the homeworld of the Blood Angels in the Baal system. The conflict that followed saw the forces of the Blood Angels suffer heavy losses to the seemingly endless tide of Tyranids. Most of High Fleet Leviathan was also destroyed during the savage battle. Aid eventually arrived for the defenders of Baal in the form of the Indomitus Crusade, and the unexpected arrival of the demonic armies of chaos that spilled out from the warp to disrupt the assault. Although the battle was won for the Imperium, High Fleet Leviathan still has many tendrils remaining, meandering through the darkness of the void. The approach of a full-scale Tyranid hive fleet strikes terror into even the bravest of humanity's defenders. Even if the initial Xenos threat is exterminated, which is usually at a terrible cost, it will not be long before another hive fleet emerges from the dark corners of the galaxy to capitalize on the situation. Tyranids are capable of out-evolving, overwhelming, and outlasting all other species they encounter, and there is no true way of knowing just how many star systems have already fallen to their rapacious advance. Hive fleets can travel through space at an incredible pace, even without utilizing warp travel. Instead, they use the psychic mastery of a selectively evolved hive ship called a narval, which can achieve faster than light travel by manipulating surrounding gravity fields. This ability to safely and quickly navigate the stars has allowed the hive fleets to approach the galaxy from different directions, making the lightly defended fringe planets easy pickings. Each Tyranid hive fleet moves relentlessly through the dark void, consuming all organic matter in its path, which is then converted into more Tyranid creatures and hive ships. This process of biomass absorption allows the Tyranids to replenish their losses and generate a seemingly unending number of bioforms, ranging from smaller organisms to lurking terrors, all the way up to the colossal hive ships. The horror of a Tyranid assault on a prey world begins long before the first lifeforms make planetfall. Early signs of an incoming invasion see the unfortunate planet shrouded in a mysterious psychic disruption that isolates and cuts off all communications, rendering the planet utterly silent. This also makes warp travel impossible, blocking any attempts at evacuation or reinforcement, leaving the population unable to escape their grisly fate. This strange and dreaded phenomenon has been named the Shadow in the Warp and signals an approaching doom. When the hive fleet makes contact with the prey world, the skies darken as thousands of mycetic spores rain down from orbit and spill out endless waves of predatory creatures, each genetically enhanced for combat and adapted to overwhelm their opposition. Within days, the surface of the planet is swarmed with the Tyranid lifeforms. Gaunts and other smaller creatures race forward and crash into bastions and fortress walls like a tidal wave. Creeping gene stealers burst from their concealed hiding places, springing lethal ambushes on their helpless victims. Lictors stalk the shadows, preying on the unwary and feasting on their brains with their feeder tendrils. As the invasion intensifies, the larger carnifexes, exocrines and other monstrous creatures emerge into the battlefield, while swooping gargoyles and larger winged Tyranids soar over defensive positions, disrupting and harrying the enemy on all fronts. In battle, the myriad of Tyranid creatures attack in coordinated strikes under the command of the Hive Tyrants and other Synapse creatures, large bioforms with powerful psychic abilities that combine the ravenous instinctive behaviour of a vast swarm to a single-minded, deadly will. In this way, the Tyranids act and think with a communal sentience, allowing them an unparalleled level of coordination. From the tendrils of the mighty hive fleets to the smallest ground organisms, every Tyranid is bound to the relentless will of the hive mind. As it's inefficient to use valuable resources evolving large and complex brains for every lesser creature, the smaller Tyranids are simply controlled by the will of a purpose-grown synapse monster. If these creatures fall, so too does their commanding influence, leading to a collapse in the local synapse field. Gaunts and other lesser Tyranid creatures will then revert to animalistic behaviour, frantically attacking the nearest target. This behaviour has been observed by many forces of the Imperium and has been used to their advantage, although at a great cost in lives. For this reason, the vast Tyranid swarms are not led by a single commander, but employ an extensive synaptic web of psychic influence from many synapse creatures. Most Tyranids that are capable of channeling the will of the hive mind are powerful psykers, and communicate with their kin through an instinctive telepathy. Such a large concentration of psykers would usually draw the attention of the entities of chaos that exist within the Immaterium. However, The soulless potency of the Tyranids' psychic abilities seems to stave off most threats from the warp. Toward the latter stages of invasion, swarms of voracious rippers consume everything in sight. Once full, they immerse their bloated bodies in acidic digestion pools, allowing the captured biomass to be funneled back to the orbiting hive ships through spiny-shaped capillary towers. This resource is vital to the Tyranids' strength, as new, genetically enhanced organisms are formed from the bodies of the planet's defenders and other various life forms of their once populous world. This process has resulted in the Tyranids becoming, without doubt, the most rapidly evolving creatures in the galaxy. Imperial researchers have observed radical genetic advancements between specimens originating from different hive fleets that might take other forms of life millions of years to achieve. Tyranid organisms known as Norn Queens, which reside aboard the colossal hive ships, appear to be responsible for these leaps in DNA structure. They are living biofactories that constantly spawn an unending stream of combat and weapon organisms. They're capable of modifying the genetics of the newly created creatures in response to the environment and opposition they encounter. Even the gigantic hive ships in which the Tyranids traverse the stars are bioengineered and grown from the living organic material harvested from the worlds they have devoured. As freshly harvested biomatter is assimilated, the prey's defensive capability is examined, and with this knowledge, the Norn Queens bioengineer improved creatures to counter it. As more and more lifeforms are absorbed, the collective assortment of genetic improvements are melded into the gene pool of other hive fleets, enhancing the strength of their entire race. Many Tyranid organisms possess lethal biomorphs as a result of this continued evolution, ranging from extra adrenal glands and toxic sacs to razor-sharp scything talons and hulking biocannons. Even the Tyranid weapons are living organisms in their own right, morphed into the creature's body. Small sinister eyes can be seen on the surface of these weapon mutations that seek and fire living ammunition at their targets, such as carnivorous beetles and flesh-boring parasites. The looming threat of a Tyranid invasion appears to be never-ending. Every year, more star systems come under assault by the travelling hive fleets, or smaller splinter fleets, which are in effect fragments of the main fleet that have broken off. Just how long the Tyranids have existed and the nature of their origin is a subject which still remains shrouded in mystery. Many have speculated that Tyranids may have already picked other galaxies clean, and that ours is next on the menu. One truly worrying thought is that the hive fleets that have been encountered to date are but the earliest larval stages in what will become an unstoppable megaswarm. The smallest initial attacks of an overall much larger and infinitely more powerful biomass of terrifying killing machines. Some speculations suggest that the hive fleets are not independent and are in some way linked through an undiscovered synapse network to some ancient, incomprehensible intelligence. This theory could see a coordinated mass assault on a galactic scale, where multiple planets and systems come under invasion at once, as the creatures of the Great Devourer descend upon the unsuspecting victims of the galaxy. The only thing that is truly known is that the actual scale of the Tyranid threat on the galaxy is still unknown. The Tyranids are not motivated by human notions of fear or territorial gain, but are united by their common desire to feed. This ever-present hunger is not mindless, and is directed and driven by a force the Imperium knows as the Hive Mind, guiding them to devour any who resist their desire. With every planet consumed, every world stripped of life, the Tyranid Hive Fleet grows larger and stronger. They churn out new breeds of predatory beasts to continue their rapacious advance. As more and more hive fleets appear on the fringes of the galaxy, the true scale of this hostile threat becomes ever more terrifyingly apparent.